Hello again in this installment of Spiritual Wisdom. I'm grateful to all of you for me here. I hope you're all doing well as well. And I'm grateful for your continued support and to have this little community here on YouTube. And if you're new here, welcome. I hope you're doing well. My name is Nicholas, and on my channel I talk about witchcraft, Wicca, paganism, self-love, crystals and magical properties, as well as plants and their magical properties. I do all kinds of readings here on the channel. I talk all matter of philosophical and spiritual topics. So if you're interested in those types of things, you know what to do. Please subscribe, join this amazing community, and click the bell icon so you're notified each time I upload a new video. And this is a safe place if you are practicing witch, Wiccan, pagan, or whatever spiritual path you may be on, because there's no right or wrong spiritual path. There's just the path that's right for the individual, and that is a hill I would die on as well. So today though, I'm based on the title and thumbnail, I'm going to be talking about admitting you're wrong when you are wrong. Admitting what you're wrong about something when you are. Now, it takes a very wise, brave and sensible person to admit they're wrong when you are wrong. Because if you're not going to admit you're wrong, like, people are going to come up with proof and evidence to prove what you're wrong there, depending on what the topic is. But I'm going to talk about like one of my examples of being wrong. Now, I love tarot. When it comes to the cards, I know a lot about the cards and do know the traditional meanings, but I would say even a lot of us as readers, we study the cards, the traditional meanings, but when we do readings for ourselves and clients, we're really using our intuition based on the question, based on what type of reading, or the energy we're feeling based on that reading as well. For like example, the High Priestess represents knowledge, wisdom, and even spiritual or psychic endeavours. But it depends on the question, what type of reading. The High Priestess is not always going to, yes, she's not always going to represent those themes depending on the reading. It could be being wise and sensible with your money. It could be difficult secrets coming to light. That could be what the High Priestess reveals in a reading. But I said, when I was in a spiritual shop, I said there was 58 tarot cards because I misread something and I thought there was 58 tarot cards. That's how many cards I thought there were, 58. But I was wrong, and another person who reads tarot like me for a living said, but oh, you're wrong about that, there's 78 cards. And I was grateful they pointed that out to me. I never said, oh, no, I'm right and you're wrong. I never thought about it. I was very humble. Because when you're pointed to be wrong, it just gives you an opportunity to go and research that. And then you learn, okay, what I originally thought was not correct. It was wrong. And I did research it and I found out, well, in tarot, there's 78 cards. That's a fact. And like the Tarot Card Bible, I read that book. And I read the tarot card books I had, and they proved that to me, well, this person was right and I was wrong. And I was very humbled by that experience. And to me, I would say I'm a very wise and sensible person. If someone says, Nicholas, you're wrong about that, and then they encourage me they show me a piece of evidence or proof to say you're wrong about that, or if they say you're wrong about that, I'll go and do further research to find out, okay, I was wrong. Because in life, you're not always going to be right. You're not always going to be right. Just like, as a spiritual person, I believe in reincarnation. I believe we live many, many lives for reincarnation. And each life, we're learning lessons. Our soul is constantly expanding through these lifetimes. And we're learning valuable lessons. Lessons what our soul needs to learn. But even in those lifetimes, I know some of my lifetimes, one of my lifetimes, I was a druid priest, and I would have had a lot of knowledge. I would have shared that knowledge onto other people, to initiates. But even in that lifetime, I didn't know everything. And then in one of my lifetimes, I was a Native American shaman, and I had a lot of knowledge and I'd done a lot of healing. But even in that life, I didn't know everything. And me now, and I love the person I am now, and that's a lesson Goddess Hektie's taught me about. You only get one chance to be you, so love and enjoy being the person you are. And I feel like that was a lesson she taught me, but it's also a lesson that she wanted me to share on the channel with everyone, because I feel that lesson is true. But just like you'll never know everything in this lifetime, no matter who you are, you'll never know everything. A quiz show, I always say a quiz show humbles people. If you go to a pub quiz, that humbles people as well, because you'll put an answer down, what you thought was the correct answer, only to find out it was not the right answer. Because no one knows everything. Now when it comes to spirituality, a lot of the things we believe in are not, when it comes to witchcraft, occult circles, and a lot of spiritual, esoterical circles, a lot of the things we are dealing with here is all personal gnosis. For the most part, it's personal gnosis. It's what you believe, it's what you think. And it's important to honour your beliefs, your path, and what you think. And it's beautiful to share those beliefs and thoughts with other people. That's beautiful. It's not so beautiful though to force those beliefs or perspectives on other people. For example, for some people like Goddess Hectie, I work with her, and I would say she is a face of the Divine Feminine, but she's also a face of the Creator, because she's so primordial, she's connected to all what is, and she is a face of the Creator, the Creator of life. That's how I see her. But not everyone who works with Goddess Hectie sees her that way, and when it comes to Goddess Hectie, everyone has a different take, different perspectives, and that's okay. Because when it comes to deities, it's personal. It's not about Mary down the road or Stephen down the road, it's about you, it's a personal connection. But when it comes to spiritual, there are factual things like tarot. There are facts about tarot. There's 78 cards. Each card has its own unique meanings. They used to be used as playing cards. So people used to play games with them. And then occultists took an interest in them. And the symbolism they were drawn to. And occultists gave them meanings and symbolism. And then occultists used them in spell work, rituals. And I feel tarot is such a beautiful tool. It can be used in divination. It's used in divination. It can be used in spells, but the cards also have got a lot of life lessons, and they teach us a lot about life as well. And that's how I would say about cards. But you see, part of growing is admitting you're wrong if you are wrong about something. Like if you were a historian or you were studying history, or you're a history enthusiast, meaning you love facts about history, you could study a lot about history, you could know a lot, then you could speak to a lot of people about history, and a lot of the information you've got may be right, but you might get some things wrong along the way. You might get some things wrong, and that's okay. But it's being humble about that, going, okay, I made a mistake. Because when you make mistakes, it just gives you an opportunity to learn more and to research that subject you were, that were not so right about, And it's a lot of people, a lot of nasty people, a lot of nasty, toxic people you don't want to have a cup of tea or coffee with, or you don't want in your space. And I refer to them as the statue people. They will never admit they're wrong, even when they're proven wrong, or you say to them, and you've got facts to back it all up what you're saying. They'll never admit they're wrong, even if they are proven to be wrong. And they're that stubborn, because to them, being proven wrong is admitting you're vulnerable. It's admitting you're vulnerable, but you make mistakes, but you're human. Because, we're all human at the end of the day. And a wise person knows this. When you admit you're wrong about something, okay, I got that fact wrong, or what I was talking about there, I was wrong about that. But they, you see, and then, but some people that go, well, and some people are scared to admit they're wrong because people can start to think, oh well, this individual made a few mistakes, they get a few things wrong, so how can we trust what they're saying about anything else? They got these things wrong, and people tend to focus on that. They don't focus on, okay, this person's talked about other things and everything they were saying was right, correct, or what they were talking about was not necessarily a fact-based topic. It was not necessarily a fact-based topic. It was a theoretical topic, and their message was beautiful, wonderful, and there's seeds of truth in their message, or that message may resonate with quite a few people. But a lot of people can be afraid to admit they're wrong. Some people are good, compassionate people, but they're afraid to admit they're wrong, because they're afraid, what if I admit I'm wrong here about these things I'm wrong about, then people won't listen to anything else I have to say. They won't understand my message. They won't trust anything I have to say. So, and a lot of seed people that have got so much potential, so much goodness, but they don't realise their potential. They don't realise their strengths. They don't realise what's beautiful and unique about them, and they don't love and respect themselves. Now, I used to be a seed person, because I used to try and please everyone. I was not a confident individual. I tried to blend in with everyone else, and I was not. I would say I was always a curious person, but I did try and fit in, and I had a lot of trauma through being a teenager, a lot of teenage trauma and that, but then experience at home was more from outside, like from society and that, where I experienced trauma, and never get physically bullied, but people did call me names, and I used to care a lot about what people thought. But over time, this seed, which is me, and a lot of you watching are seed people as well, over time you become a beautiful tree when you learn to love, respect yourself, walk your path with pride, with joy, and walk your journey. But focusing on, see, this is wise and sensible people will admit they're wrong when they are wrong, you know, because they'll admit that when they're wrong. And and me now, none of us like to put our hands up and go, I get it. I didn't like to. I thought I'd tarot figured out. I thought there were 58 cards, but I didn't argue with this person. I respected what they had to say, and then I done research and I found out, okay, they were right. I was wrong, and there's no shame in that because we're all human. We're all on a different level. Like, being human and the human condition is something we've experienced many lifetimes before, and we're all on our own unique journey in this life. But, and anyone that says they get everything right, but they're right about everything, and they never get anything wrong, anyone like that is not really someone worth trusting, because if a wise person would admit they're human, they make mistakes, where they get things wrong sometimes, but that at least they try and give knowledge, they try and help others. That's the important thing. Whereas a statue person, and when you meet statue people, and if you've dealt with them, you don't want them in your space or company. But they'll never admit they're wrong, because for them, it comes from a place of ego. They don't want to help and uplift people. They want attention. They want people to look at them and go, oh, you're really smart, you're really intelligent. Or they want to be perceived as wise and intelligent, but they're none of these things. They're not intelligent, they're not wise, and that they might know things, but they might know a thing or two about things, but they want attention. They want validation from people. They want recognition. And they know if they admit they're wrong, then people stop turning to them. They want people to call them 2 in the morning, at 3 in the morning. And a lot of these people will never admit they're wrong. they've got like occult vibes, like an occult leader type of vibe. The occult's beautiful, and the occult's a beautiful umbrella which describes a variety of esoteric and spiritual symbolism, but an occult leader is never a good thing. And these people will never admit they're wrong, even though you could show them you could show them a lot of facts or evidence that proves that they're wrong. They'll never admit they're wrong. As well, because they don't want to show that they're human, vulnerable, because their ego's too big. Their ego is as big as my bedroom, or as big as Australia even. Australia, or Russia, though Russia's quite a very heated place. Russia's like one of the largest countries in the world, so it's as big as Russia. Their ego, and they don't want to admit they're wrong, because if they admit they're wrong at any given time, then people stop listening to what they have to say, and people stop blindly listening and blindly following what they. It's not so much they want you to listen to what they have to say, and then they want you to not only listen but blindly follow, blindly listen and blindly follow what they're telling you. They don't want you to think about things for yourself and do your own research. These individuals in life, but will never admit they're wrong, even though you know they're wrong, and they know they're wrong, but they're not going to admit they're wrong. They're not going to admit that. So foolish, statue type people, they never admit they're wrong, even when they are wrong. But wise, sensible, and brave people, they do admit they're wrong if they are wrong about something, because it's about being humble. It's about learning from your mistakes, because you're not going to get everything right all the time. You're not, as well. And some people, I want to touch on this point as well, but it'll still happen. Even when I'm gone, it'll still happen. Spiritual arguments and discord, that'll always happen. Because at the end of the day, okay, you've got your personal gnosis, what is valuable. That person down the road, they've also got personal gnosis. It's still valuable though. This happens with a lot of deities, it happens a lot with Goddess Hecate, and it's quite sad. There's a lot of gatekeeping in Goddess Hecate's name. She knows what's gonna keep happening, but she doesn't thank people for it or appreciate it, because the way she shows up for a person, in order to heal people. So Goddess Hecate is very primordial. Her energy is very primordial, very old, very ancient. And she's helped thousands of people. Those who've worshipped her, people who worship her today, she's helped thousands of people. But in order to truly help people, you need to know their heart and mind. And Hecate does know people's hearts and minds. So you show up for, and Hecate meets people where they're at. So she shows up for people in a way that makes sense for them, in a way that helps them. And it's you building this relationship with Hecate. It's between you and Hecate. It's not between anyone else. But then the sad thing is, other witches, other occultists, they disrespect each other, and then they try and bring each other down. You're not working with Hecate right, you're not doing it right, you're wrong, what you're saying about Hecate is wrong and untrue, but okay. And then let's hold it up here. So you're telling this person, this practitioner, what their way of working with Goddess Hecate is wrong, not correct. You're telling them that, when that relationship that they've got with Hecate is very respectful. They respect Hecate, they love Hecate. She's helping them and helping them become the best version of themselves. And they're not, when they talk about Hecate, they're talking about her from a place of love and respect. So what's wrong here? There's nothing wrong, you see, but people want to, even fools, because anyone that does that, anyone that tells other people, I'm right, you're wrong, they're on a power trip. They're not on a spiritual journey. They're not on a spiritual evolution. They're on a power trip. And the people that tend to do that, I'm right, you're wrong, they tend to be the people that never admit they're wrong. They tend to never admit they're wrong. Even when they are wrong, they'll still never admit it. and they like to get into arguments and debates with other people because it makes them feel better. They like to, and they like to bring other people down as well. So that's, at the end of the day, that's how the cookie crumbles. And it'll always be this way. You'll get wise and sensible people who admit they're wrong when they are, because that's the wise and sensible thing to do. Because if you were talking about history and you keep mentioning, well, this happened in let's say 1962, this happened, okay, but then you keep preaching it, then it turns out what you said happened in 1952 or 56 didn't actually happen. Then who looks like the idiot? The person that won't admit that they're wrong even though they know they're wrong. Yeah. That's that's the fools of the world. But wise people will not keep preaching something they know is wrong. They'll admit they're wrong when they are, and learn and do better as well. As always, giving you the sage, giving you the knowledge. Until next time, stay safe, look after yourself, take care, walk your spiritual path with pride, and if you're perhaps much with me, stay with you. May meet, may part, meet again, blessed be.